Hey everybody, it's Mike from GunsInThe701.com, and we are back again with another Badass of the Week. We pick a name out of history, go into detail on the badass things they did so that their memory will always be recorded. Ahead of time on this one is a lot of Slavic pronunciations, and I am not very good at the Slavic pronunciations, so I will try my very best. Witold Pilecki was born on the 13th of May, 1901 in the town of Oleniec, Karelia in the Russian Empire. He was a descendant of the Polish-speaking noble family, the Slachka of the Lauer coat of arms. His ancestors had been deported to Russia from their home in Lithuania for participating in the January 63 to 64 uprising, for which a major part of their estate was confiscated. Witold was one of 5 children of Forest Inspector Julian Pilecki and Ludwika Anzamitska. In 1910, Witold moved with his mother and siblings to Vilnius to attend Polish school while his father remained in Oleniec. Now, following the outbreak of World War I in 1916, Pilecki was sent by his mother to a school in the Russian city of Oryol, located safer in the east than Vilnius. There he attended what was called a gymnasium, or a secondary school, and founded a local chapter of the ZHP. Now that's a model of the British and American Boy Scouts. In 1918, following the outbreak of the Russian Revolution and the defeat of Central Powers in World War I, Pilecki returned to Vilnius, then outside the control of the Polish government, and joined the ZHP section of the Self-Defense of Lithuania and Belarus, a paramilitary formation under Major General Władysław Wyjęto. The military disarmed the passing German troops and took up positions to defend the city from looming attacks by the Soviet Red Army. After Vilnius fell to the Bolsheviks' forces on January 5th of 1919, Pilecki and his unit resorted to partisan warfare behind Soviet lines. He and his comrades then retreated to Białystok, where Pilecki enlisted as a private in Poland's newly established army. Now, he fought the Polish-Soviet War in 1919 to 1920, serving under Captain Jerzy Dobrynski. And being involved in the Vilna offensive, he fought in the Kiev offensive in 1920 as part of the cavalry unit defending the then Polish city of Grodno. On the 5th of August 1920, Pilecki joined the Polish 211th Ulan Regiment and fought in a crucial battle of Warsaw, and then in the Rudalinki Forest. Pilecki later was involved in the Polish-Lithuanian War as a member of the October 1920 Zygolinski Mutiny, where Polish troops occupied Vilnius in a false flag operation. By the conclusion of the Polish-Soviet War in March of 1921, Pilecki was promoted to the rank of corporal, becoming a non-commissioned officer. In 1931, he married Maria Ostrowska. They had 2 children, born in Vilnius, over the next 2 years, Andrzejczyk and Zofia. Pilecki actively supported the local farming community. He was also an amateur poet and painter. He organized the Krakus Military Horseman Training Program in 1932 and was appointed to command the 1st Lida Military Training Squadron, which in 1937 was placed under the Polish 19th Infantry Division, and in 1938, Pilecki received the Silver Cross of Merit for his activities. Then we hit World War II. With Polish-German tensions growing in mid-1939, Pilecki was mobilized as a cavalry platoon commander on the 26th of August 1939. He was assigned to the 19th Infantry Division under Major General Józef Krasnynski, part of the Army's Prussia, and his unit took part in heavy fighting against the advancing Germans during the invasion of Poland. The 19th Division was almost completely destroyed following a clash with the German forces of the nights of 5 and 6 of September at the Battle of Piotrków-Trybunalski. Its remains were incorporated into the 41st Infantry Division, which was withdrawn to the southeast toward the Val or Lviv, Ukraine. In the 41st Division, Pilecki served as divisional second-in-command of its cavalry detachment under Major Jan Wojdarkowicz. He and his men destroyed 7 German tanks, shot down 1 aircraft, and destroyed 2 more on the ground. Now, on the 17th of September, the Soviet Union invaded eastern Poland. which worsened the already desperate situation of the Polish forces. On the 22nd of September, the 41st Division suffered a major defeat and capitulated. Włodarkowicz and Pilecki were among many soldiers who did not follow the orders of Commander-in-Chief General Edward Śmigło-Rycz to retreat through Romania to France, instead opting to stay underground in Poland. On the 9th of November 1939 in Warsaw, Major Włodarkowicz, 2nd Lieutenant Pilecki, 2nd Lieutenant Jerzy Marinj, Jerzy Skolansky, and brothers Jan and Stanislaw Dangle, they founded the secret Polish army known as Tanja Armina Polanska, or TAP, one of the first underground organizations in Poland. Włodarkowicz became its leader, while Polanski became TAP's organizational head as it expanded to cover Warsaw, Siedlce, Radom, and Lublin, along with other major cities in central Poland. As cover, Pilecki worked as a manager of a cosmetic storehouse. From the 25th of November 1939 until May of 1940, he was TAP's inspector and chief of staff. TAP was based on a Christian ideological value, while Pilecki wanted to avert a religious mission so as not to alienate potential allies. Włodarkowicz blamed Poland's defeat on its failure to create a Catholic nation and wanted to remake the country by appealing to right-wing groups. In the spring of 1940, Pilecki saw that Włodarkowicz's views had become more anti-Semitic and that he had put ultra-nationalist dogma into their newsletters. Włodarkowicz had also entered into talks about a merger with a far-right underground group, including a group that had offered Nazi Germany a Polish puppet government. To stop him, Pilecki went to Colonel Stefan Rowiński, chief of the rival resistance group, the Union of Armed Struggle, and they were abbreviated as ZWZ, which called for equal rights for Jews and others, gathered intelligence on German atrocities, and delivered it by courier to the Western Allies in an attempt to gain their involvement. The ZWZ had alerted the Polish government in exile that the Germans were inciting Polish hatred against the Jews and others, and that this might lead to the rise of a Polish Quinzling, or ethnic cleansing. Pilecki called for TAP to submit to Rowiński's authority, but Włodarkowicz refused and issued a manifesto that the future Poland had to be Christian, based on national identity, and those who opposed the idea should be, quote, removed from our lands, unquote. Pilecki refused to swear a proposed oath. In August, Włodarkowicz announced at a TAP meeting that they would, after all, join the mainstream underground with Rowiński, and that it had been proposed that Pilecki should infiltrate the Auschwitz concentration camp. Little was known about how the Germans ran the new camp, which was thought to be an internment camp or large prison, rather than the death camp it's known for. Purporting to explain how Pilecki actually found himself in Auschwitz, he put himself in the apartment of Ilornia Orlowska during a building search. Afterwards, along with 1,705 other prisoners, between the 21st and 22nd of September, Pilecki reached the Auschwitz concentration camp under the name of Serafinsky, a name of someone he thought was dead, and he assumed his identity. He was assigned prisoner number 4859. While in various slave labor and surviving pneumonia at Auschwitz, Pilecki organized an underground military organizational union, the Zajwak Organizacji Wojskowej, otherwise known as ZOW. Its tasks were to improve the morale of the inmates, provide news from outside the camps, distribute extra food and clothing to its members, set up intelligence networks, and train detachments to take over the camp in the event of a relief attack. Now, ZOW was organized as secret cells, each a 5-member group. Over time, many smaller underground organizations at Auschwitz eventually merged with ZOW. As part of his duties, Pilecki secretly drew up reports and sent them to the Home Army headquarters with the help of inmates that had been released or escaped. Now, the first dispatches, delivered in October 1940, described the camp and the ongoing extermination of inmates via starvation and brutal punishments. It was used as the basis of a Home Army report on the terror and lawlessness of the occupiers. Further dispatches of Pilecki's were likewise smuggled out by individuals who managed to escape from Auschwitz. The report's purpose may have been to get the Home Army Command's permission for ZOW to stage an uprising to liberate the camp. However, no such response came from the Home Army. In 1942, Pilecki's resistance movement was also using a homemade radio transmitter to broadcast details on the number of arrivals and deaths in the camp and the conditions of the inmates. The secret radio station was built over 7 months using smuggled parts. It broadcast from the camp until the autumn of 1942, when it was dismantled by Pilecki's men after concerns that the Germans might discover its location because of, quote, one of our fellow big mouths, unquote. The information provided by Pilecki was principal source of intelligence on Auschwitz for the Western Allies. Pilecki hoped that either the Allies would drop arms or troops into the camp, or that the Home Army would organize an assault on it from the outside. The camp's Gestapo under SS Untersturmführer Maximilian Grabner redoubled its efforts to ferret out ZOW members, killing many of them. To avoid the worst outcome, Pilecki decided to break out of the camp with the hopes of convincing Home Army leaders that a rescue attempt was a valid option. On the night of the 27th of April, 1943, Pilecki was assigned to a night shift at a camp bakery outside the fence, and he and 2 comrades managed to force open a metal door, overpower a guard, cut the telephone line, and escape outside the camp perimeter. They left the SS guard in the woodshed, barricaded from the outside. Before escaping, they cut the alarm wire. They headed east, and after several hours crossed into the general government, taking with them documents stolen from the Germans. The men fled on foot to the village of Alavelnia, where they were helped by a priest, and then on to Tynis, where locals assisted them. Later, they reached the Polish resistance safe house near Bochnia. At one point during the journey, German soldiers attempted to stop Pilecki, firing at him as he fled. Several bullets passed through his clothing, while one wounded him without hitting either bone or vital organ. After several days as fugitives, Pilecki made contact with units of the Home Army. In June 1943, in Novi Winsk, Pilecki drafted a report on the situation in Auschwitz. It was buried at the farm where he was staying and was only revealed after his death. In August 1943, back in Warsaw, Pilecki started preparing Witold's Report, or Report W, which focused on the Auschwitz underground. It covered 3 main topics: ZOW and its members, Pilecki's experiences, and the extermination of prisoners, including Jews. Pilecki's intent in writing it was to persuade the Home Army to liberate the camp's prisoners. However, once again, the Home Army command judged such an attack would be a failure. The Soviet Red Army, despite being within attacking distance of the camp, showed no interest in a joint effort with the Home Army and ZOW to free it. Shortly after rejoining the resistance, Pilecki became a member of the Kedwa Sabotage Unit, using the pseudonym Roman Gerinsky. He also joined a secret anti-communist organization, the Nye. On the 19th of February 1944, he was promoted to cavalry captain. Pilecki continued coordinating ZOW and Home Army activities and providing ZOW with what limited support he could. In Auschwitz, Pilecki had met an author, Igor Nuverly, whose Jewish wife, Barbara, was hiding in Warsaw. The Nuverlys had been working with Janusz Korczak to try to save Jewish lives. Pilecki gave Barbara money from the Polish resistance, which she passed on to several Jewish families whom she and her husband protected. He also gave her money to pay off her own blackmailer, who said he was Jewish and threatened to report her to the Gestapo unless she paid up. Well, that blackmailer disappeared, with the suspicion that it is likely that Witold arranged for his execution. And good riddance to that son of a bitch. Now, when the Warsaw Uprising broke out on August 1st, 1944, Pilecki volunteered for service with the Warszawska Company of the Chorlby No. 2 Battalion. Initially, he served as a common soldier in the northern city center without revealing his rank to his superiors. After many officers were killed in the early days of the uprising, Pilecki revealed his true identity and accepted command of the 1st Company deployed in Warsaw. After the fall of the uprising, which ended on the 2nd of October that year, he was captured and taken prisoner by the Germans. He was sent to Ofslag 7A, a prison of war camp for Polish officers, located north of Murnau, Bavaria, where he remained until the prisoners were liberated on the 29th of April, 1945. In July 1945, Pilecki joined the Military Intelligence Division of the Polish II Corps, under Lieutenant General Władysław Anders in Ancona, Italy. In October 1945, as relations between the government in exile and the Soviet-backed regime of Borislav Beirut kept deteriorating, Pilecki was ordered by Anders and his intelligence chief, Lieutenant Colonel Stanislav Kijak, to return to Poland and report on the prevailing military and political situations under Soviet occupation. By December 1945, he had arrived in Warsaw and begun organizing an intelligence gathering network. As the NI organization had been disbanded, Pilecki recruited former ZOW and TAP members and continued sending information to the government in exile. However, in July 1946, he was informed that his identity had been uncovered by the Ministry of Public Security. Anders ordered him to leave Poland, but Pilecki was reluctant to comply because he had a wife and children in the country, and his wife was unwilling to immigrate with the children, as well due to a lack of suitable replacements. He was arrested on the 8th of May, 1947 by the Communist Authority. Pilecki was tortured, but in order to protect other operatives, he did not reveal any sensitive information. His case was supervised by Colonel Roman Romanowski. The show trial took place on the 3rd of March, 1948. Pilecki was charged with illegal border crossing, use of forged documents, not enlisting with the military, carrying illegal arms, espionage for Anders, also espionage for foreign imperialism, the government in exile, and planning to assassinate several officers of the Ministry of Public Security of Poland. Pilecki denied the assassination charges as well as the espionage, although he admitted to passing information to the No. 2 Corps, of which he was considered himself an officer, and thus claimed he was not breaking any laws. He was sentenced to death on May 15th with 3 of his comrades. Pleas for pardons from a number of Auschwitz survivors were ignored. Pilecki was executed by Pietrov Smintansky with a shot to the back of the head at the Makatow prison in Warsaw. Pilecki's burial place has never been found, though it is thought to be in the Warsaw Palawansky Cemetery. A monument to Pilecki is in Warsaw. In 2012, Pilecki's Auschwitz diaries were translated into English by Garolinsky and published under the title The Auschwitz Volunteer Beyond Bravery. Also, Poland's chief rabbi, Michael Shrudich, he wrote the foreword to the 2012 English translation of Pilecki's report, and quote, "When God created the human being, God had in mind that we should all be like Captain Witold Pilecki of blessed memory," unquote. Also, historian Norman Davies wrote in the introduction of the same translation, quote, "If there was an Allied hero who deserved to be remembered and celebrated, this was a person of few peers," unquote. Here's a man that went well above and beyond for his country. Witold Pilecki. Don't let his name escape history. Witold Pilecki was a true 100%. Goddamn, that man was a badass. Some of the sources for this badass of the week from Wikipedia, also the Polish Institute of National Remembrance, Witold Pilecki confronting the legend of the volunteer to Auschwitz and the Auschwitz volunteer beyond bravery, among others. Well, that concludes this badass of the week here on GunsInThe701.com. Hey, here's the deal. If you've got a badass in history that you want us to talk about, do a little research on, we'd love to do that. But you got to let us know. And you can do that by emailing us at guns@GunsInThe701.com. That's GUNS@GunsInThe701.com. Drop us a line, let us know, and we'll get back to you. And of course, hopefully get that story out here on the Badass of the Week. Also, you see the QR code up there? Bing! Yep, it's right up there in the corner. You can go to that and donate a little money. If you got a little or a lot, whatever you feel you can spare, we always got to keep up our studios. We've got programs we've got to keep up to date. And Lord knows, it's just not cheap nowadays to do anything in this world. So, hey, we could use any help that you could give us. Also, don't forget you can go to GunsInThe701.com. Check out, of course, our store where we've got all our cool swag and other kinds of cool shirts and more. Check it all out right there. You can also check out our back catalog of shows from our Wednesday night for GunsInThe701.com, our 701 Nation with Jamie, and of course we've got that show as well, and we've got our back catalog for Badass of the Week, and of course we try to put this out for you every single week, time permitting, so we appreciate all the help you can give us, and we really thank you for taking the time to listen. And with that in mind, well, I got to tell you, until next week, from the GunsInThe701.com and all the gang, as my buddy Clay always says, keep your powder dry and stay safe.